Why are they not muted?
Good evening, everyone. We're just letting everybody in the meeting. We'll begin shortly.
So I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute the commission. Are you getting them all in, Mike?
Yeah, I think so. Good evening, everyone. We'll begin shortly. Just getting everybody in. All right. Looks like we're in good shape, Chuck.
Do I have everyone unmuted? It's Tay right there. I recognize Ingrid.
I don't remember how to change the name. This is my daughter's name. There should be a way.
All good,
Mike.
Tay. We know who you are.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's January 27th, and we're convening the conservation meeting. The meeting is convening by telephone and video conference via Zoom. The link is posted on the town's website identifying how to join in. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Chuck, are we recording yet? It's being recorded now. Please, all materials for the projects that we're about to hear are available on the Conservation Division website. Applicants will be asked to present the project. The commission will have the opportunity to ask questions and comment. We will provide the opportunity for the public to provide comment. Currently, everybody on the meeting is muted. If you are, when we call for the public comment, if you'd like the opportunity to speak, please try to use the raise hand feature. That's the best way to get a hold. If you feel like you didn't have a chance to comment, you can always email us at the Conservation Division webpage your comments or become part of the public record that way. And before I begin on our first project, I'm going to introduce the commission. For the commission members, please remember this order because this is how we're going to vote. So we'll begin tonight. I'm Michael Flynn, Chair of the Commission. Anika
Scanlon, Vice Chair.
Martha.
Is she?
There we go. Thank you. Martha Moore, member.
Dave.
David Panett, member.
John.
John Sullivan, member.
Scott.
Scott Keith, member.
Carl. Carl, you're on mute.
Carl Ciccone, member.
Nicola. Oh, sorry, Nicola. I thought we had you unmuted.
That's all right. Nicola Meserve, associate member.
And Tay.
Tay Evans, associate member.
All right. I appreciate the patience. Despite doing this for now 7 months, we still, I still have technology issues every now and then. So you may catch some mute. All right, we're gonna kick off the first scheduled public hearing. This is 1312 Main Street. My understanding is at the applicant's request, we are going to continue until our February 10th meeting. Chuck, is that correct?
That's request. Received an email requesting that February 10th. We have some updated information from that applicant, but we just received it. So it's not been distributed to the third-party reviewer or the commission at this point.
Okay. All right, is the process going to be, is that going to go to our third-party reviewer now that we have it? And so they'll have a chance to kind of look at it ahead of our next meeting.
That's, yep. That's,
All right. Can I get a motion to continue?
Make a motion to continue 1312 Main Street until February 10th meeting.
I'll second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
David Burnett in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor. Carl Ciccone in favor.
All right. We will move on to the next item on the agenda. This is public hearing for 4 Cold Spring Road. This is an RDA filed by Michael Salamone under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, Reading, and the Reading Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for the construction of a stormwater recharge system with an overflow outlet structure and associated grading within 100 feet of the buffer zone to a BVW. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division webpage under the current project. This is map 27, lot 404, file number RDA 2021-1, our first RDA of 2021. So we'll turn it over to the applicant. Chuck, do you know who's here to present for the applicant?
yeah, Giovanni is, I'm just working on the screen for a second. He's already unmuted. And Giovanni, who's with you? Any of your team that we haven't unmuted?
Giovanni Federa with Federa Engineering. I believe the applicant Mike Salamone is in attendance.
Is that Mikey 4500?
Probably, I believe so.
Let's see.
Chuck, before you let him get started, can I make a declaration before you get started for conflict of interest? I've known Giovanni for many, many years. His brothers and my sons all wrestled together at Reading High School. So, so I've known him and his family for many, many years. And I just want to make that declaration up front that, and I don't think it's any conflict of interest. I don't think it's going to affect my ability to be impartial or effective as a member of this commission.
Thank you, Dave.
Can I jump in too? If it's the same Giovanni Federa, then I coached him when he was wrestling in high school.
Yes.
I don't think that'll have any effect on my.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was only 7 brothers, so
Small family.
a lot of people are going to know one of them.
So I can start.
All right. I'll turn it over to you, Giovanni. Go ahead if you'd like to
Sure
present the
thing.
project.
So if it's okay, I can share my screen. Or you have it right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Sorry, Giovanni.
No, it's okay. So it's this is a subdivision project. It's a 4-lot subdivision on an existing parcel at 4 Cold Spring Road. It's in zone S15, so 15,000 square feet per lot, and we're adding an additional 3 extra single-family residential homes to the subdivision. There's an existing right-of-way as Grandview Road, but we will be converting it to a private way known as Penny Lane, and the only resource areas on site are inland bordering vegetated wetlands, which are at the northeast portion of the property. You can't really see it on this plan, but I'm sure on C3, you can see it a little bit better.
And let me go back to up a few.
Yeah, this
There it
plan
is.
shows it pretty well. So as you can see in the northeast portion of the property, which is the top left-hand corner of that plan, you can see the wetland flags that were flagged by LEC Environmental, and that was done in the fall of last year, 2020, so they are valid. They are within the 3-year validity date. And as you can see, the 100-foot wetland buffer goes within lot 1 and lot 2 and a little corner of lot 3. And so really what's happening here is that there's not going to be any structure. It's just going to be a an infiltration system that's being placed in that location. And so it's taking up a big portion of lots 2 and 3 and going a little bit into the buffer zone and going up to about 75 feet to the buffer from the wetland buffer. And so what's happening here is it's just going to be an overflow structure of that subsurface infiltration system. And we do have comments from, we already went to the CPDC planning board meetings, and we had, good feedback. We got a memo from the town engineer that he was satisfied with all the comments and revisions. We went to 2 meetings so far, and we've had, really good feedback. So, now we're just kind of going through conservation, and the next CPDC meeting will be, I think next week or in 2 weeks. So, but, as I mentioned, it's just a recharge system, and it's overflowing towards the wetlands. It's going to capture the major storms. It meets the stormwater requirements, the local requirements, and it's going to be directed towards the wetland as clean water, clean runoff. So it's a pretty basic design. It's a pretty basic project for conservation matters, and I don't really have any more comments for conservation, but I'd like to open it up to the board to discuss any questions or comments you guys have.
Thanks, Giovanni. I'll open it up to the commission. Does anybody have any comments? Anika, go ahead.
Just unmute myself. Hi, thank you. Giovanni, thank you for the presentation. So you're saying that CPDC reviewed this, and let me just to clarify, I may have heard it. The engineering department reviewed all these plans as well?
Yes.
Including the stormwater report?
The stormwater report was reviewed. Everything was reviewed, and I do have a memo from the town engineer saying that all engineering matters have been satisfactory.
Okay. Question I have, I mean, clearly there's a lot of space here to work with. Maybe you don't feel that way 100%. But one of my questions is there, with all the room that there is on these lots to work with, is there any way to do any of this work completely outside of the 100-foot buffer?
So the thing about that is, if you look at lot 3 and lot 4, the area that will not be disturbed, which is kind of that light gray shaded area kind of in the top right-hand corner of the plan that we're looking at right now, it starts to grade up towards lot 4, and it's ledge. It's known to be ledge in that area within the hillside, and it's pretty flat within the northern portion of lot 3, lots 2, and lot 1. So that flat area is good soil. It's good soil for infiltration, and that's really the most practical area to have infiltration within those areas. I didn't want to go closer towards the wetlands, obviously. I would have liked to gone towards lot 4. However, because of the ledge in the hillside, it just was not practical.
Okay, but I'm looking at the area of lot 2 and lot 3, the part that's between the 75 and the 100 foot. Is there any way this design can literally get that out of the 100-foot zone, pull it back?
I don't think so. You know, it's a big system as it is itself, and plus recharge systems, they need to stay 20 feet away from houses with basements. So a dwelling with a basement, we need to stay at least 20 feet away, and we are meeting that requirement. And you know, bring it any closer to the structures, we cannot do that.
Well, let me ask this. Are there other types of infiltration besides a massive array of infiltrators? Is there any other method of infiltration that could kind of reduce this underground system?
So we tried that, and we do have dry wells for lots 2 and lots 3. They're located in the front portion of the lots in front of the houses, and that does minimize the size of the recharge system. However, because of the newly added pavement from the cul-de-sac, we really need to meet the minimum requirements for you know, stormwater, and it created this large recharge system. However, it does meet the requirements in the local bylaws. So this was the size that we had to go with based off the design. So reducing it any further was, I don't believe so.
What about permeable pavement?
That may be an option, and I have not discussed that with the applicant. However, you know, we've gone back and forth with the CPDC, and
Yeah. You know, I understand you've already been through a number of other zoning, you know, a number of other permitting process, but this is like my first time seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask my questions. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and I guess another question I have, so that's one question I have is, does that infiltration have to be designed like that, or are there other greener engineering technologies we could use? You know, so, and another question I have is, how are lots 2, 3, 2 and 3, how's lot 2 and 3 going to be vegetated in the 100-foot buffer?
So the limit of disturbance, you can see as that dark dashed line, that will be staked out with straw wattle, silt fence. It'll be a nice barrier for sediment control. So anything outside of that will remain as the natural vegetation. So there are trees you can see in the top, you know, in the northeastern portion, the top left-hand corner of this plan. It's you know, it's all trees. You can see the area of tree preservation. So for the most part, the area within the buffer will be mostly trees, and it'll be wooded, heavily wooded. So it's going to, you know, remain in its natural state.
So you're not planning on any additional plantings or invasive control in that area?
No.
I was out there with Martha this week. We were in the area, I would say, on lot 2, kind of where the existing tree line does a sharp 90-degree turn page down. And just, so it looked like there was some fill or some earthwork in that corner, and as well as test pitting stakes. We saw those. And I'd like to go back out maybe at another time, but I got the sense that there was, I mean, I saw bittersweet. Martha, I'm sure Martha can tell you additional stuff, additional invasives that are out there. So I just wanted to ask the question, are you planning on doing any additional habitat improvement?
We haven't planned it. We just decided to, you know, do what we have proposed in front of us, and that's about it.
So-
Any type of replanting will be outside of the resource area, but that's a different matter.
So outside of erosion control on lot 2, that limit of work line,
Yes.
you're just going to leave it as is?
It will be it'll be maintained by the current homeowner. I mean, it's a nice lawn area. So it'll remain like that. And yeah, I mean, it's not planned that there will be additional replantings.
Okay, I have one more question. Do you have a tree count of proposed trees that are going to come down?
So we
Within
didn't,
100 foot?
we didn't estimate in value, and that was based on, I believe, 1 tree per 225 square feet. And it is located on this plan. I think if you scroll down a little bit further.
Is that realistic for that area? I think I'd like to see, this is just my sense. I'd like to see an actual inventory.
Yeah.
And that's the end of my first round of questions. Thanks.
Tree count thing that you're looking for is on page C3, Chuck.
Thank you.
Just a little lower. It says planting schedule at the bottom of the field of view right now.
Thank you, Martha. So we estimated a tree every 225 square feet. That's 15 by 15. It's an educated estimate, and based on the trees that were located on the westerly portion of the site, as you can see right there, which is on like that town property, they're spaced out a decent amount. Those were field located. It's not within the buffer zone, obviously, but it just shows you, it gives you a general idea of what the spacing of the trees are like in that area.
Anika, just so I'm clear, is your intent to have an inventory of everything or what's within the 100-foot buffer?
Now, we only have jurisdiction within the 100-foot. The concerns I have outside of the 100-foot, just to be clear, are the stormwater management that feeds into the wetlands down gradient. That has to be preserved at all. Has to be kept.
No, and I guess I just wanted to make that point because I think we're talking about a relatively small area for inventory, not necessarily the entire development here. But I think I agree. I think we do want to see an inventory in that what's within the 100-foot of what's there and what's proposed to come down.
Okay, I'll make a note. I have a question. Would you be satisfied based off the calculations we have of the 225 square foot per tree?
We have a tree policy that we use, and so you're going to have to abide by that tree policy, and it asks you to go out and locate every tree over 6-inch DBH and either replace it or follow the policy to have some other options. And this area that I circled to me looks like the area that we would need for this inventory to happen. It's the disturbed area that's within the 100-foot, which is the extent of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
All right. I guess before I turn it over to other members, I had a couple quick questions. So Giovanni, there's 3 proposed homes. Currently, there's no, you've got a driveway planned. Are the homes actually going to be built as part of this permit, or is this, is the idea to build the development and the stormwater, and then the homes will be built at a later date?
No, the homes
designed and built.
The homes are planned to be built along with this development.
Okay, so the layout that we see here is going to be the layout of the homes. This isn't like an approximate box.
Well, yeah, we will have architectural footprints. This is just an approximate box.
Okay. So in the past, go ahead, Chuck.
I was just going to ask, do you intend to work within the box? I mean, is this the extent of where you're going to place that? Or do you think it's going to change and come outside the box?
I see the footprint being about the same size, if maybe smaller. We did a 50 by 35 foot box, which I think is, 55 by 35 foot box. So, I mean, I think that kind of blends in with the neighborhood, but I'm thinking that it may stay within the box or within the same area.
Sure, Mike, I'll let you continue, and I'm sure you're going to ask him about the stormwater calculations.
Exactly. So generally with a project like this, where this isn't uncommon, Giovanni, where we'll get something and it's a box, and the houses haven't necessarily been planned. The overall area of the homes is important to the stormwater calculations and the volumes that you calculated as far as what it's going to take. And so I think my concern, or what I want to make sure, is that we have some sort of mechanism, whether it's in this condition within this RDA or whatever, to identify that they're not exceeding that area, and if they are, that it's at least coming before the commission again, so that we can see that okay, it's a little bit larger than you showed. We understand that it's not planned. It's a little bit larger than you showed, but it's still within our design for the stormwater system. And so, Chuck, I think we've dealt with that in the past. I think generally, I can't remember if we've done that with an RDA in the past, but I mean, I think it's just a condition that we can put with the RDA.
So what's happened is, in the past, is we have a standard condition in the order of conditions that says any change in the plan, we need to be notified, and then it's up to me whether it comes to the Conservation Commission or not. We haven't been notified in the past of changes, and especially changes like this. The other thing that's happened is the engineers told us that they've oversized the infiltration system, and they could handle twice the volume that they're showing. And then they proved it, and the commission felt comfortable. So those were the 2 options I remember.
Yes. So I guess that's the question. I know you've got quite the system back there. I guess if the buildings are enlarged, Giovanni, is there room for changes if the areas get larger? Does the system have some extra capacity there, or are you kind of pushing the limit?
Yes,
capacity
it does have that extra room, for a larger system. However, I don't see the building footprints being larger than what we have shown right here. And if by any chance that it is slightly larger by maybe a small amount of square feet, I don't see it would have any effect on the stormwater calculations. But like I said, I don't see the footprints being any larger than what we have shown here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not planning on building ridiculous size homes. We're only looking at roughly around 3,000 square feet of living area.
So between 2 floors, yeah.
And that should be 50 by 35. More than enough.
Could you identify yourself? I don't know who was talking, just for the record.
I'm sorry, I couldn't introduce myself earlier, but I was muted and I couldn't unmute myself. Michael Salamone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Anika, it looked like you had another question there.
I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to hog this. You can come back to me. Why don't you open it up to others? Maybe
Martha,
they'll ask.
Dave, do you guys have any questions? Go ahead, Martha.
A couple of questions, and I apologize. I have not been involved in okaying developments since I've been on the commission, particularly. So some of this is just going to be I don't know how all this works yet. First of all, the gray rectangle of the house area clearly will have the roof runoff. What's the rectangle behind that has a big X in it? Does that account for runoff?
That is a porch. So that's considered pervious area, not impervious area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then my other concern has to do with erosion on plan C4, and I thank you very much for bringing me the full-size maps because there's a lot of detail on here that's hard to see. So I appreciate the big one. It looks like, yeah, this is the one. You've got erosion control around the perimeter of that work area. And so confirm for me that all the construction vehicles are going to be coming in and out over the rectangle that says construction entrance, and none of the construction vehicles are going to go down the northeast side of the existing house. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that all of that lawn that's outside the erosion control barrier will remain undisturbed.
That is correct.
Okay. And then my one concern is the erosion control barrier is kind of around the outer edge of this area, but there are some places where you're planning to do some significant grade changes. It seems to me might lead to some erosion during construction. And I know it's outside the 100-foot zone, but if I'm not allowed to ask that question, Chuck or Mike, let me know. But do you have any plans for the triangle? In our view, it's down below the roadway. When you're cutting back that bank, yeah, that area there. Are you going to do anything inside the construction site to keep that hillside from sloughing off all of the soil down onto where the roadway is being built, for example, and towards the wetland? And likewise, on lot 4, the hill beyond the house on lot 4 is going to get much steeper. You're on lot 3, Chuck. Go down to lot 4. Yeah. Over on the south edge of lot 4, inside the erosion control barrier between the erosion control and the house, that hillside is going to get much steeper. Are you going to do anything to keep that soil from washing downhill towards the wetland area?
Thank you, Martha, for the questions. So to answer your first question about the westerly side, west of the proposed road on the town-owned property, that's actually that's in the direction of westward, and it's not being directed towards the wetlands. So that will be all controlled by the erosion control barrier. It will be inspected periodically, and especially after any storm event of a ½ inch or greater. So that's to answer the westerly portion of the road. To answer your concerns on lot 4, it will be steeper. However, as you can see on this plan, if you zoom in, we have a sediment trap basin. So that's on, if you look at lot 3, and that area that's boxed off just north of the proposed house area, it's a temporary sediment basin. It'll be about 2 to 3 feet deep. So that will capture any potential runoff from lot 4 and lot 3 that's being directed to that direction. Similarly to lot 2, right behind the location of the proposed house, we also have that temporary sediment basin. Those will be used as any sediment control devices. And so that's what we will provide to capture any potential sediment runoff.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, any other questions, Martha?
I don't think so. Thanks.
Scott, John, or Carl, do you guys have any questions? Okay, Tay or Nicola?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tay.
So it's a 4-lot development, including an existing house, correct?
Right.
Can you put the area for recharge on lot 1? Because there's more space between the house and the 100-foot buffer. Can you move that over to lot 1? And is that recharge accounting for the whole development? Or is there a way to have multiple ones that are smaller? So I guess there's those 2 ideas and 2 questions.
So we did soil testing in the location of where the proposed recharge system is located, and it proved that the soils were in great condition for recharge. There were not soil tests done on lot 1. However, as you can see, if you zoom in, there is a stone retaining wall, and it's kind of splitting that grassed area between the 100-foot buffer and the house. It's kind of splitting it in half. So, you know, if we were to put any system right there in that area, we'd have to rip up the retaining wall, and it just didn't seem practical to do that additional site work. So just, you know, putting it in one location, especially the location where we had the soil tests done, seems the most practical. So yes, it is taking into consideration the entire development and all the impervious area on site. But putting it on lot 1, you know, with the retaining wall, we just felt like it would be more constructible and more practical to have it just in one location.
Except that it's within the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah.
And what about the other question? Because in other developments, I've seen individual stormwater systems per lot rather than one for the entire development. Why not have smaller ones that take the, you know, that are pitched towards a stormwater system for each development?
So for each
I don't know if that would help or if it would get it out of the buffer zone.
So we do have recharge systems individually for the house located on lots 2 and lots 3. They are not, that roof runoff is not included in the recharge system that we have designed here. Lot 4, it was directed towards this recharge system because of the, you know, potential ledge and the hillside within lot 4. So we cannot have recharge on ledge, obviously. So that was directed towards that system. And the existing dwelling, we left it to remain. So all the impervious area from the road and the driveways and the house on lot 4, it will be directed towards the recharge system that we have proposed.
If you go to plot C5, Chuck, it shows those charge systems on lots 2 and 3. There we are. No, go up 1. Yeah.
So as you can see in the front portion of the lots on lot 2 and 3, there are dashed box areas. Those are the locations of the dry wells for those roof runoffs.
Any other questions today?
Just something that when Martha was talking about the slopes between 2 and 3, there's a very steep slope, and maybe that's maybe you're capturing, or maybe you're minimizing impacts from erosion with the sediment basin that you said was going to be there, but I don't see it on this map. But it looks like there's a lot of elevation change between 2 and 3.
There is a large grade change because if you look at lot 2, for example, the driveway leading into that garage really should have a a full soil barrier surrounding it, because you have a car going into the garage. You don't want to have this the slope down basically outside of the car loading area, and it's a foundation issue essentially. But any type of runoff that within that steep slope area, it is captured within an area drain. It's area drain 1. If you zoom in, there are 2 area drains. They're located. One of them's on lot 2. The other one's on lot 3. It's on the southeasterly portion, basically the right side of lot 2. There's an area drain located there, and if you go to the central back of lot 3, there's a area drain number 2. So those will capture the steep runoff, the steep slopes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Go ahead, Anika. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tay.
Sorry to cut you off, Tay. Are you all set, Tay?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Kind of in that light, those area drains, do those just look like catch basin grates?
Yes.
So who's going to maintain that on lot 3 and lot 2?
So
there will be the homeowner?
There will be a homeowners association between lots 2, 3, and 4 that will, have some type of legal outline on maintaining an owner and operation and maintaining.
Is there, clearly it's not a requirement, it is outside of the 100-foot, but is there an easier structure to install? Or is the drain, I'm thinking of another site I was at recently, and the drain was constructed like a half-foot below grade. So I'm just, I'm just sort of asking the question.
Yeah, these area drains are very common. They're very common in, applications like this. Usually it's like a 12-inch grate. It's a beehive grate, kind of like an oval shape, kind of like a half moon. That's kind of what, we're intending to put. I'm just showing it as the catch basin grate right here on the plan.
I wanted to ask a question about fencing on lots 2 and 3. Maybe I didn't look at the plans carefully enough, but I didn't see any property line fencing proposed. What, do you have any sense of that? It may sound like a finishing touch, but sometimes that fencing can encroach on the 100-foot.
That we're not proposing fencing. That will be a finishing touch.
I'll just say if it's not included on the plan and it goes into the 100-foot, it's going to need some approval before us.
Absolutely. And I don't think the applicant, as we've gone through this design process, I don't think there's any intention of the developer at least putting the fencing divider.
Okay, and finished landscaping, just to kind of, I know I've asked a couple of times, I know you've said it a couple of times. So I guess what I'm expecting based on what you've presented is that outside of the limit of work line on lots 2 and lots, well, there's nothing left on lot 3, but outside of the limit of work line on lot 2, all the vegetation outside of that limit of lot line is not going to be touched.
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Mm-hmm.
And any additional questions, Nika?
No, I think to me, the only outstanding part of this is a tree count within the 100-foot buffer. A count
I
of
just have
tree takings.
one more question, and I think we kind of started to hit on this a little bit, but it's about the O&M, Giovanni. So I think the O&M indicates, and Chuck, maybe I'll start with you. So the O&M indicates inspection quarterly, and to empty this out whenever it gets half full. Chuck, do we generally require that those reports are sent to us for a certain amount of time after the project's complete, so that we can just have some sort of confirmation that the system's working, that the O&M is being performed? Maybe we don't have Chuck. Oh, Chuck, you're on mute.
So on commercial projects, we've had a maintenance report sent to the Conservation Commission to review. This not usually with subdivisions,
Okay.
but we could, and you know, actually, I don't know how to answer that, but
Yeah.
on subdivisions, I believe this would be a new ask that we start monitoring to make sure the maintenance is done. I just wanted to also let the commission know that this came to you as an RDA, and if we want to do monitoring, we have some conditions, it's going to be hard to enforce them with an RDA. So I would suggest putting notes on the plan, or deciding that this isn't appropriate for a request for determination of applicability. So we can have a couple of conditions, but it's usually not the format for, like I wrote down a few. Some of them are for the plan, and I think they would be handled, but you know, I don't know about the erosion control and monitoring after the fact. So just think about that as your continuing discussion.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my mind, it's a big area, and, you know, we obviously have concerns about erosion control, but there is a good distance between this and the wetland. I think, Chuck, with an RDA, is there still a requirement that you go and see the erosion controls before when the project kicks off?
Yeah, so we have a sign-off process.
Yeah.
In the building department, and we have our own sign-off for these permits. But essentially what you're saying with an RDA, and the language is backwards, but you're saying that it doesn't rise to the level, you've reviewed it and it doesn't rise to the level of any resource area being altered, and you find it sufficient, the work sufficient to protect the interests of the act. So So you would usually check off C and D, and C says, yes, the work is within the buffer zone, but is unlikely to alter the buffer zone. And D says something like, yes, the work is in the resource area and is unlikely to alter the resource area. So.
Yeah, and I guess my take, you know, I don't think an RDA, you know, I'll just be blunt with my take. You know, I'm leaning. Well, I'd like more information on the trees. I think we are still waiting for that. I think an RDA is appropriate here because of the amount of work that's in the 100-foot buffer. That being said, I do want to try to make sure within that RDA we have measures for us to at least understand what's going on, because it is a large site and there is a lot of disturbance that's going on, whether it's outside the 100-foot buffer, still near our jurisdiction. And you know, if poor erosion controls can have an issue. I don't think that concern rises to the level of that we need a notice of intent, but I still want to have try to have some sort of mechanism that we understand what's going on, for lack of a better term.
So this will be a site visit. You know, I'll do site visits as normal. It won't be like Smith Oil or anything like that, but I would like to, you know, I also had some questions, and one of my questions was, you know, between in the 100-foot buffer zone area and the area just above it, we would want to have, you know, a substantial barrier, not just a 12-inch mulch sock, and for the duration of this. And then my suggestion is to put things on the plans, like the limit of work line. I see that out there, and it says limit of disturbance. So limit of work, limit of disturbance, that works out. There's a note on the plan that says area of tree preservation. I think that could be more clear throughout the 100-foot buffer zone, over in this side here, but that's up to the commission if they agree. The condition that I would put on the determination would be any changes would have to come back to the Conservation Commission for review. And then I was going to ask what the porches are made out of. And I know this is just because I work for the town. I know that it's like, hey, porch, well, we're not going to call that impervious, but most decking now is, you know, is joined together. And so I wanted to know what kind of decking was on the porches, because it's likely that they don't have gaps in between. And that's why we allow porches to not be part of the calculation. I think there's some bit to that back in the day when we were using pressure treated wood. And then that was really it. That's what I came up with. And I think they need to review the trees in the 100-foot buffer zone and give us that count, and then work with the tree policy to make sure that they either plant 1-to-1 in the buffer zone area or pay for each tree, as we have stated in our tree policy. There's one other option, which I don't think is likely. We ask for a 10-foot snag to be left on the trees that you cut. Essentially, you're topping them, but that wouldn't work in this situation. So you're down to 2, and that's why we need the count of the trees. And all contractors are held to replacing each tree either in kind or paying for them. Oh, and I should tell you that any money that's collected for the trees goes into a tree fund for more trees to be planted throughout the town.
That makes sense, Giovanni?
Can
Did you
I
mute
ask
him?
Go ahead.
one more question?
Yep, that does make sense, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead,
I ask
Martha.
a question, Mike? In the area that we're talking about, inside the 100-foot buffer zone, but over the recharge devices, I presume you can't replant trees in that location because their roots would cause problems with the recharge devices?
That is correct.
Would shrubberies in that area cause the same problems with their roots, or would possibly replacing trees with shrubs be appropriate in that area and it could get filled in with some shrubberies back there?
So we have about 12 inches of soil between the top of the system and the surface, and 12 inches of soil just, I don't think is enough for any plantings.
So Giovanni, this is going to be a town road at some point?
It's a private road.
It's always going to be a private road?
Yes.
I saw on one of the sheets that it says easement, and is that a town easement over the infiltration area, or is that just condo?
It's a drainage easement for the homeowners association.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So my point was not, it doesn't fit here. Usually the town, maybe the homeowners feel the same way, doesn't allow trees to be planted in the easement. It's hard to maintain those areas. So that's what I've heard from the engineering department.
Chuck, what about herbaceous cover, wildflowers and the like?
So here's the problem. We are approving a site and working with a tree policy, and herbaceous cover comes and goes, and there's no guarantee that it'll come back the next year. And we really want something that's going to last as long as the project. The trees are pseudo protected through the fact that we used it as mitigation for the removal of the trees for this discharge area. So, we really need something that we can monitor. If they could set aside an area and say, look, we'll just let that grow natural. And I agree with that, and that herbaceous cover in that area would be acceptable, but something that could be altered later or mowed might be not in line with what we want for our tree policy. If you follow me.
Yeah, I didn't mean instead of the tree policy. I just thought sort of as finished cover over those infiltration basins.
Well, I don't know. It seems like I just didn't understand where you were going with that, because I thought we were talking about trees and replacing that, but now you're saying instead of the trees, can we do something additional in that area? So yeah, that would be fine, I guess.
No, not saying instead of the trees. I'm just sort of thinking, I mean, it's a question for the applicant is, that infiltration basin. Were you just planning on it being, lawn?
Correct, yes.
That's yeah.
Because we could ask for some wildflower planting to support the habitat within the 100-foot. I'll just throw it out to the rest of the commission.
Having the recharge system located right there, as long as there are any plantings not, with over the piping system or the recharge system, we could do it right at the edge of the limit of disturbance, once everything's stabilized. But as of going on top of the system itself, you just cannot.
That makes sense, Nika. I guess I'll say for my take, there's such a small area relative to the entire recharge system that's within the 100-foot, and it's kind of a unique layout. I don't know that I see and you know, if you see a reason, I'd like to hear it, but I don't know that I see a significant added benefit versus just having that area grassed. I think it's just, we're going to see better maintenance if it just stays grass. They're going to take care of it. Like Chuck said, it's not going to die off and end up just being a dry area that somebody doesn't take care of. I guess that's just my thought.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll wait and see until after the trees get counted and what happens after that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's definitely some opportunity to plant down by the resource area. There's a path that heads down that way. We're going to need some granite bounds in that area. I just think that the way this is laid out, that's an underground infiltration area. The only discharge daylight's at that point, you know, right around there, really close. That's where you're going to start seeing and knowing that this thing is there. For practical purposes, it's probably going to be considered lawn by the homeowner. And as you can see, I mean, this area that they're going to leave, this tree area, you know, doesn't leave much for this homeowner. So, I mean, it's not protected in perpetuity. It's something that will probably come up in the future for this commission. But, you know, there is an opportunity down here where that path is and, you know, still on the property for shrubs and whatnot.
Okay. Any other items from members of the commission? Chuck, do you have any other items?
No, I'll email Giovanni my list of my takeaways, or I can go over it right now. Just add to it.
Chuck, just before we do that, I just
Sure.
open it up quickly. Any comments or questions from the public? You can use the raise hand feature if you've got a question. Not seeing any. All right, sorry, Chuck, go ahead.
Sure. So we would like a copy of that memo from the engineering department saying that they're accepting the infiltration system and the stormwater system. Indicate on the plans that the trees will not be cut. And I think you've done that, but maybe just look at that. Maybe there's some other spots. I don't know if it's clear enough. I want you to look at the tree policy. I could also send that to you tomorrow and determine how many trees are out in that discharge area, the 100-foot area that are over 6-inch DBH, and then just make a note again at the erosion control line is also a limit of work line, and no work will happen beyond that point. And we'd like a more robust erosion control in that area. I mean, these days, most contractors are using mulch sock, 12-inch mulch sock. We'd like, if you're going to use the 12-inch mulch sock, we'd like silt fence dug in behind it.
We do have that detail on the plan, I believe.
Okay.
Yes, if you scroll down on the same sheet, actually. I'm sorry, on sheet
really?
C4. So right there, right in the
all the way to
no,
the right.
To the right.
That's not it?
On the right side.
Sure, hold on. Let me get this going.
Right there, to the right.
Yeah.
So there's a silt fence straw wattle barrier which is dug into the ground about 6 inches.
So we don't accept straw wattle anywhere within our jurisdiction. So that must be mulch. So you have to make that change. I wouldn't think you'd want that. I don't see that holding back anything. And on these down gradient areas, you're not going to be holding back much with straw wattle. And you might think about that, but you know, our jurisdiction's only within the 100-foot, and then anything that looks like it's going to cause an issue within that 100-foot area. So right now, within 100-foot, the new ask is mulch sock, and it's going to be 12-inch, and then same detail as you have here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think, Chuck, whether or not it's in the 100-foot area, right, everything on the down gradient side, that's protecting our jurisdiction. So that at a minimum, that's where we want to see it.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's what
Were
I
there
have.
any other items that you had there, Chuck?
No, the rest were covered. You asked.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's
Then, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to issue a negative determination. Oh, no. A motion to continue.
Wait.
Motion to continue, sorry.
Second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Mika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
David Kmet in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Sure. So that's a motion to continue to February 10th, 2021.
Thank you, Giovanni. All right. Move on to the next item on the agenda. This is 38 Westcroft. This is open of a public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Sean and Denise Ewald under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for the construction of a single-family home addition to include new foundation and a 1 to 2 story addition, new patio and deck within the 100-foot buffer zone to the PVW. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project. This is map 10, lots 242, DEP file number. Do we have a file number for this one, Chuck?
I checked this afternoon, but maybe Sean has more recent information. I didn't see one.
No, I looked this morning. I looked too, and they don't have one yet because the check hasn't got to Boston yet.
Okay.
It was filed with Wilmington, just the check hasn't got to Boston.
Okay.
I do have tracking numbers, so I'm waiting on them.
All right. So Sean, I'll turn it over to you if you'd like to present the project.
Sure. Chuck, do you want to share the screen or?
Yeah, sure. I'll get that going right now.
Small enough you can almost describe it, but so yeah, thank you to the commission for reviewing. My dog let me know that a few of you came by this week to take a look at it, so I appreciate that. So yes, so there's a addition off the back of the house that we're proposing. There's a wetland in the back left corner of the house, delineated by BSC Group in November of 2020. So they hung a few flags. We located those, put them on the plan. Buffer zones are shown on the plan. I didn't put the 100-foot buffer put on the plan. I probably should have, but basically the entire addition is going to be within that 100-foot buffer anyway. So what we're proposing is the removal of a patio in the back, removal of a small stairway in the back. You can't, it's kind of shaded underneath the addition here, so you can see where the word patio kind of points right there into where the new patio is. And then the back of the house will have a 6-foot 1-story addition that goes along the entire length of the house. That's the first story. And then on the back right of the house, which is left on this plan, there'll be a 2-story addition that extends 14 feet from the existing house. Bulkhead that is existing now kind of in the middle of the house is moved to the back of the new 2-story addition. And the breezeway as it is now, there's actually no foundation under the breezeway. So as part of the project, they will install foundation underneath that. And that will become part of the finished space. Nothing's proposed to be done to the garage or the shed. That's going to stay as is. Not shown on this plan, but something probably of note to the commission. You can see right behind the shed, and for those of you that came and saw it, there's a small bush that's right there. It's actually a little bigger than it looks right here. I don't know, maybe one of the commission members knows the actual name and type of it. But that bush will likely be removed for construction access. We'll probably need to do construction access on plan right next to the garage. We could potentially have it come to the left of the house, but we would have to tear down some additional bushes over there. And we were hoping to avoid that as much as we can. So the idea is to have construction access come in the garage side of the house, protect the wetland in a way that the commission is acceptable to the commission, and do the material staging on the back left-hand side of the property where it says fire pit. That's the project in a nutshell. I open up for questions and comments.
All right, thank you. I think we just heard we had a couple commissioners to do a site visit. Somebody that did the site visit, would you like to just kind of tell us what you saw out there? Martha, were you able to get out there?
Yeah, I went there right after I went to Penny Lane and or Cold Spring Road. Anyway, what I saw was that the back part of the property, it has a large play structure that pretty much runs along the back fence with some wood chips and stuff underneath it. So there are in fact structures within the 35-foot zone that exists now. And that's along the corner where the bordering vegetated wetland is. One of those trees that's shown in the corner there is badly covered with ivy. So if we're concerned about trees, I wonder whether that tree is gonna survive with all that ivy growing on it. So those were my thoughts. It's not a very big yard to start with, and it's going to get smaller with this addition. But a lot of the back part of it is filled up with the play structure.
Okay.
Yeah, those play structures are not permanent by any stretch. They're not even attached to the ground other than with a few posts. So as the kids get a few years older, those will be disappearing.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Dave, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Nicola, Anika, do you guys have it? Go ahead, Anika.
Okay, what's going to happen with runoff, roof runoff?
As I understand, we don't need to do anything with the roof runoff since it's a single family home, but I'd be curious what the requirements are.
Well, I'm just wondering how that's going to be managed. So you're going to have roof runoff.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right now, we don't, right now, the back of the house, because of the ice there, when the back of the house is fully dormered, so there's very little slope on the existing roof. So before we even bought the house, the gutter was ripped off. My guess is from an ice dam. So we will be installing gutters and like dry wells in the back.
So
Do you know-
Anika was speaking about that we request that every addition infiltrate the roof runoff.
Okay.
And so that's been a policy of the Conservation Commission. I know you're talking stormwater and you don't have all that, but
Yep.
that's what the question was from. So sorry, Anika, but go ahead now.
Sure.
Yeah, and sometimes that looks like a dry well. Sometimes, depending on how shallow groundwater is at your property, sometimes that's an infiltration trench. You know, so we've seen different things.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, so I noticed you filed for an, oh, let me just check. What was it? Oh, it was a abbreviated NOI
Correct.
because of the square foot, it's less than
Correct.
1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So right now your entire back lawn is grass.
Correct. Except for the mulch area that Martha pointed out. There's maybe a 6-foot mulch border along the backyard, along the stone wall.
Yep. Sometimes, I mean, I don't think in this situation, because you're not encroaching on the 35 foot, I don't think, you're not requesting a variance. Sometimes if there is an encroachment, what we would ask is we would ask for compensatory mitigation plantings. I guess I'm wondering in the area that area of your lot that's within the 25 foot, do you see that like flooded on a regular basis, or, is that an area of your yard that, this is just pure like interest, like, is that an area that you would consider doing some additional native plantings?
We've actually tried to do some plantings over there. I think there's so much shade underneath those trees back there. We have a hard time with it. The flooding issue, it doesn't flood. I mean, it floods relatively regularly, but it's more on the Evans yard next to ours. You can see where the kind of the 153-foot contour is right there. There's not a trench there, but there's almost a small swale that kind of runs really parallel with the property line back there. So it probably only comes maybe 5-10 feet onto our property, but the Evans yard does flood pretty regularly. Yes.
Okay.
But as far as the plantings, we would be open to putting anything back there. We've tried to do plantings more on the other side of the back wall up against the stone wall. And like I said, it's just so shady back there. It's tough to get anything to grow.
We have a good plant person on who might have some suggestions, but out of curiosity. And did you have some sense of where you might lay out erosion control for this project?
I'm open to anything that the commission wants. We don't need a lot of area for laydown, so we have plenty of area over there by the fire pit. So if it's either along the 25 or the 35-foot buffer, I think we'd be open to either one of those.
Okay, and I just have one last question, and somebody else can start cutting me off on the commission because I'm talking too much tonight. But remind me, are these slab on grade or are there full foundations?
This is going to be full foundation for both the new 1-story and new 2-story addition.
Okay, and so you're going down like 6, 7, 8. How deep do you think you're going?
Probably about 6 feet on both of those, 6 to 7 feet.
Do you think you're going to be hitting water table when you get that deep?
We're going. The new addition will be 8 inches deeper than the existing foundation. We have a sump pump in the basement now, and it operates throughout like the wet seasons, but during the dry season it doesn't. So yes, I'm sure they will be doing some dewatering down there. And there will be a new sump pump in the back of the new 2-story addition.
When I was looking in your backyard, and I did knock and nobody answered, so I just walked around the yard. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
There was a birdhouse over in the corner near the back edge there. Is that birdhouse on your property or the neighbor's property?
I believe that's right at the property corner, give or take.
Okay.
Very close.
So it looks to me like the stone wall along the property boundary, there's a lot of moss growing in the back, and you've got kind of a ring of rocks around the moss in the corner there.
Correct, yep.
Yeah, so that's the area where you're saying it's hard to get much to grow because it's so wet.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also the area where I saw the trees with the ivy strangling trees. So.
Yeah, there were actually, there's quite a few. There's a couple of trees back there that had the ivy. I go back there and I try and break it off as best I can, but I'm sure you know how that fight goes over time. You'll lose that battle. It actually killed one of the other trees that was over by the 4761 dimension and was leaning onto our property, which had to be removed a few years ago. Actually fell over a few years ago.
Nicola, John, do you guys have any questions about Scott or Carl? Carl, you're on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You had mentioned the shrubbery in the front. So the access is, so if you're looking at Westcroft Road, the construction access would be from the right-hand side along the driveway, right? Or
correct.
No?
Yeah, by the garage. Yes.
So
right now,
the shrubbery. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, so the shrubbery in the front, like the little planting in the front, that's all remaining. Those shrubs are remaining, right?
Exactly. If you look at the plan, top left, all that's going to remain. Yep. There is, between the garage and our neighbor's house, there's a very non-productive garden installed over there, so we'll be taking down that garden.
And then all the cut for the foundation, I'm assuming there'll be a little bit of backfilling, but will that just be transported off-site, or will that be staged somewhere on site?
I haven't worked that out with. We haven't selected a builder yet, so my guess is all that's going to have to be taken off-site.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we generally, and Shark, tell me if I got this correct, but we generally like to see this like a stockpile area. If there's potential that there's a stockpile area, we generally like to have that shown on the plan.
Okay.
We would prefer to see that in the front rather than back in the. I know you've got a small laydown area. You probably don't have a whole lot of room to put it in the back anyway.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, what I'd like to see on this plan is, a call out for the construction access and a stockpile area if it is going to be required. There might not be a whole lot of space in the front anyways. I don't know if that, I can't, I just went by quickly, but I can't remember with the bush that we're seeing in the front yard there, if that was, if it were a tree or whatever that was, if that's something that would get in the way. But I don't recall if there's room up there for it, but I certainly don't want to see, a stockpiling in the back towards the wetland. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that tree that's in the front and middle of the yard was actually cracked in the last ice storm, so that's going to have to come out. That's one we actually put in 3 or 4 years ago. It's
always the ones you put in, right?
I know, right? It was an anniversary present too. I'm like, oh, come on. Yes.
Tay, do you have any questions? No. Oh, you're on mute.
No, I don't at this time. Thanks.
So I think most of the things that I had were hit on. The infiltration. We talked about construction access and stockpiling, and erosion controls. I'll get to, let's go. So I don't have anything else, but I'll go to Anika and then to Chuck. So Anika, go ahead.
This has come up in a couple of meetings recently, but stairs back there. I mean, I see bulkhead and decks and patios. I'm assuming you're going to want access from all those structures to your backyard. So where do you see stairs going?
Yeah, correct. When we put this together, we're still in the finishing touches with the architectural. So the stairs are going to be nestled up to where the new 2-story addition is. Here we have this kind of shown as half deck, half patio. There'll be a small stairs that come down on the left side of where it says new deck, and then the rest will just be patio. So it'll be more patio than stairs. So we're thinking like maybe a 4-foot by 6-foot or 8-foot stairs coming off that left-hand side.
In between, like between the bulkhead and the new deck.
Correct, right? Yeah, right where it's, no, right where it says, like, for where it says new 1-story addition, where the word new is where the stairs would start to come out from there.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would be within the deck area.
Yeah.
Yes, within the deck area.
And as a follow-up, are you planning on doing any sort of a backyard patio hardscape?
Nothing except is what's shown on here.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Chuck, do you have some items?
I don't have any items, but
Okay.
I just will, discuss what needs to be added to the plan. So I want to see the erosion control on the plan. It's going to be 12-inch mulch sock, or you can propose something that has a silt fence also. And straw, we don't usually like straw wattle, but this might be fine for straw wattle with silt fence. Yeah. Show the construction entrance. I'd like to see a detail of what you propose for a dewatering plan or a dewatering detail, just so that the contractor, when he gets his order of conditions, can review that and have that in his head or her. I was wondering where the sump pump discharge was on the property. Is that something that goes into the drain, or is it discharged into the backyard? And then does that have a kind of like a riprap spillway that's associated with this sump discharge? And so Mike asked for the stockpile area. So the stockpile with, there's enough room to probably dig, and you're going to need some for backfill anyways. They can't take everything off, so you might want to show us where the stockpile is. Depending on where it goes, you might have to put some sort of erosion control around it. And we want to see some infiltration, and then just make a note on the plan about where the stairs are. And I think that's what I got from listening to the commission.
Just while we have it, because it was a question, do you know what the details with the sump pump that Chuck was asking, if it discharges in the back anywhere?
The existing sump pump is in the front right-hand corner. It used to go out to the road. They repaved Westcroft Road and added like 3 inches, and then it wouldn't daylight anymore. So now, unfortunately, it discharges into the driveway. So during the winter, there's a pipe that I have to install, take it off. So it'll be fixed and it'll go into the backyard in the new addition.
The new addition will go into the backyard. Okay.
Yes.
And okay, yeah. So where that goes, where it daylights, seeing that on the plan. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
I had just one question. For the
Sure.
erosion control, where would you guys like to see that in relation to the wetland? Is it 25-foot buffer, 35-foot buffer? I mean, the 35-foot buffer would make it kind of tight for construction access, is the reason I ask.
So yeah, as long as you're not cutting down any trees, I think you go, we would like it somewhere within the, either in front or back of the fire pit, and then give yourself enough room around. You have to consider your stockpile area.
Mm-hmm.
So take that all, access, construction,
Okay.
access, stockpile area, and then put it like horseshoe around the backyard, and then run it up the side a little bit, just kind of like cup anything that may happen.
Sure.
I guess if it's all lawn, it doesn't really matter where it goes, but of course we would like to see it outside the 35-foot and outside the 25-foot, but do your best on both of those.
Okay. All right, thanks, that's helpful.
All right. Any comments or questions from the public? I'm not seeing any, but as I say with everything, if you feel like you had a comment and you aren't able to get it in, you can always email the Conservation Division Conservation Division. Our email access is through the Conservation Division webpage, or reach out to Chuck and we can get a question on the record. If that's it, do I hear a motion?
Is it, before we have a motion, I was just going to ask if I think it's reasonable to have that plan updated before next, I guess it would be next Thursday.
Oh, a week from tomorrow?
Yeah.
Do you need it just like a day or two before, or how far in advance
You
that
could
meeting?
send it to me on that Thursday. I need to send it out to the packet, with the packet on the 3rd or the 4th.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So if I send it to you on the 3rd, that'd be good?
That'd be great, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes. So our next meeting is the 8th of 10th of February. Thank you.
Okay.
So Chuck needs to have time to ahead of time send it to make sure we all get it.
Sure, yeah, I understand, absolutely. Yeah, these are pretty simple. I just need to talk to the contractor and the architect on a few, so.
Okay. All right, then do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to continue this abbreviated notice of intent to the next meeting, February 10th.
Second.
Michael Flynn in favor.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
David Trinette in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Keith in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Great, thank you all. Have a good night, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so that's it for the public hearings. Chuck, do we want to go to administrator's report first? What does that make sense?
Yeah, that would be, so we have, yep, I think that would be the next thing. I think, let me get out of this screen, just see who's in the waiting room. Yeah, so Mike Rivers is here, and that would be, so I'm going to use my administrator's report time to talk about the 445 Pearl Street, which was brought to my attention by the DPW department. I guess that they had noticed that the stream area had been severely altered within, from what they said, recent memory. So I went out there and looked at it with one of the engineers, and if anyone saw that, it did look like to me that the stream was altered by placing rocks in the channel and then filling in back of that with some pretty poor fill that had construction, concrete, asphalt in it. The altering the streams undermined the bank on the opposite side, and trees fell on the house and fell on cars, and those had to be removed. And I had sent around pictures showing cut trees in the bank. So the owner is here, Michael Rivers, and he just explained that this is the trees had fallen. Really didn't get into the work, how much work's been out there, how much work he knew about, but it's clear that there's a lot of work that had happened, and I think that just that information we got from the DPW, that just driving past, I realized that something's going on here. Just shows that how much work is happening. So that's my report. I did prepare an enforcement order. I sent that to the commission. I called DEP, asked them what they thought about this process, and they just said keep them informed. They generally don't get involved in homeowner issues, but if there's no compliance, that they would step in and help. So that's really where we're at, but we have to do the discovery process, and that's what's going on tonight. So I'm going to put up some pictures, or I'm going to try to put up some pictures while you guys start talking, so we know what we're looking at.
So this came through yesterday. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to get out to the site. Did anybody get out there and have a chance to look at? I saw the pictures. I did get a little bit confused because I think I started reading the 2006 enforcement order. But so it sounds like some work there was an enforcement order about 15 years ago on this property as well. But was anybody able to get out there and see it? Anika and Martha, can you guys just let us know what you guys had saw? Maybe just it's a reiteration of what Chuck said, but it'd be good to hear some other insight. Go ahead, Martha.
Okay, I unfortunately tried to go by the day before the snow and didn't manage to find the right house. So I went by today after the snow had fallen and took a look, and across the street there's a stream with gradual slope on both sides, natural stream banks, and then as you can see in the picture on this side, the bank is badly undercut on the north side of the stream, and lots of rocks on the south side of the stream. When you compare the west side of the street to the east side of the street, the stream changes dramatically from one side of the street to the other.
Anika, anything else?
No, she basically said it. What I did notice, if you see in this picture Chuck has up, what I did notice is as you get closer to the road, underlying all that debris that you can see kind of underneath the tree stump on the left, underlying that is like a giant slab of concrete. And at first I thought there was some sort of retaining wall that had literally collapsed over. But I'm not sure if that's the case, but to me it looked like if there was a previous wall, whatever, it had just completely filled in. So the existing channel, instead of being like 2, 3, who knows how many feet wide, is now, as you can see in the picture, a foot to less than a foot wide.
Okay. Mr. Rivers, if you could just introduce yourself for the record. What's going on out here? What can you explain to us what happened? Oh, you may be muted on your end. I think we're trying to, I think you might be under the 944 number there. I'm okay. Now it's still didn't work. Can you hear us now?
How about now?
Yes.
There we go.
Ah, that wasn't hard. All right. All right, so you can hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
Everyone.
So let's see, there was a tree growing out of this, like an old maple with probably 4 different trunks coming out of it, that had fallen over the years, probably back from like say 2010 maybe, or 2009. That one had fallen, like 3 of them fell on the house, and 1 fell on, there was 5 altogether. 3 fell on the house, 1 fell on my daughter's car, and 1 totaled my car. And they did damage as they were. The root's still there, the stump. It's right just south of where the water is, in the middle of that brook. There was a couple of trees sticking out of that banking too. There's like a scrub cherry, a small cedar, more like 12-foot high, 16-foot high trees. They got taken out also from the other group on my neighbor's side, but it landed. Took out the trees on the banking and landed in the brook. And it's been, chopped up by a neighbor and taken away for firewood to get it out of the brook. But, it definitely did some damage. And then I go in and out of the brook every other weekend to get my barrels and take all the trash out. The kids throw beer cans in there, all kinds of stuff. Everything kind of slopes down into there from the street. It's treacherous, which I'm sure Scott can tell you. So I knock things in and then I pull things out and I set it on the side. I have no other option. I have to go in and out of things to take trash out.
I'm sorry, I don't know if it's just me, but you're breaking up a little bit. But I guess I'm at a loss somewhat. So I get some trees have fallen, but how does this looks like it was a collapse, or there was earthwork done, or things were pushed in? I guess, how does it get having a tree taken away doesn't usually do this to the bank?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably more like 5 or 6 trees that have gone down over probably 2 or 3 year span. And as they come down, there's some of the trees were like right on the side, growing out of the side of that bank. It's kind of raw right now, which got with the bigger trees falling down. So it disrupted that whole bank. Which I do know that it was the day before the day after the DPW went and did some clearing out of that brook, to keep it flowing, which they come like maybe every other year or so. Because my neighbor across the street gets her garage flooded when it's not flowing, you know. So the DPW comes out. So because I know we were talking to them about who's responsible for the tree falling down when they left, you know. It's an ongoing issue over there. There is a couple things, like there's a little piece, there's a little chunk of like asphalt that was part of the driveway that got knocked down there that I got to pull out of there. And you know, probably some other stuff too. But there's, you know, different little things that get kicked over.
All right. All right. So, I mean, I guess I've got some concerns. Obviously, that it's pretty plain to see from the picture. Chuck, I don't know if you've got an idea, but so from an immediate standpoint, do we think that this is wide enough? Like, I guess, you know, I think there's, you know, we need to issue an enforcement order. We need to make sure this gets taken care of. But, you know, I think there's, the way I see this is, you know, short-term resolutions, long-term resolutions. I guess my immediate concern is this bank looks like it's been severely impacted. This is likely a area water flows when there's snow melt or rain, and it could create backups and flooding, you know, now. And I guess my concern is, when we've had the conversation with the DPW, did they give any sort of indication, like something, you know, from the standpoint of flooding, something needed to be done immediately? Or I guess I want to make sure, like I said, I don't want to just say, oh, go in there, let's take care of this, because I want this to be done properly, whatever resolution we have. At the same time, I don't want it to take too long and there's backup and flooding, because this is now a 1 foot wide channel that's really skinny, or it's, you know, the bottom is raised. Or...
So your question was, is DPW going to get in? Is that what you're asking?
I realize I gave like a 5-minute question there. Is there a concern associated with flooding, like in the immediate future, with what this looks like right now?
So the lead department on this, with the most jurisdiction and the most power, is the Conservation Commission, and the DPW department knows that, and they are waiting for us to. Now, that bank is undermined, and it could just drop in, and then things would flood back. But I don't know how far it would go. And the DPW could go in there and clean it out, but right now they're not going to do anything. This is something that, you know, we're not going to say resolve, but if we need their help, we'll call them. They want to know what we've told the homeowner to do. Okay. So no, flooding did not come up.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this to me looks like, I mean, this needs to be restored. This needs to be cleaned up. So I think the best way to do that is we need to issue an enforcement order. I guess I want to make sure we have clear timelines attached to that enforcement order of what our expectations are of how and when this gets dealt with. Because I don't want this to be, you know, I think there's times when we see an enforcement and we say, well, you know, get someone engaged, come to us with a plan at, you know, a couple meetings from now, and we'll find some sort of resolution. I don't know that I look at this and say, this is something that we want, that can have a loose timeline to it. I guess I'm interested in the thoughts of others from the commission, particularly those that saw it out there. You know, I'm unfortunately going off of photos because I didn't have a chance to see it, but I have concerns about this as an active, as an active area for water flow and what that means to the bank.
I have a question, Chuck.
Yes.
From the documents that you sent to us and the pictures, what I got from this is that this is a problem that's existed for many years and it was unresolved and hadn't been taken care of back when Fran Fink wrote the enforcement order. Is that true?
I didn't get that from reading this. I knew that there was another violation and there was a summary of an enforcement order that I sent to you as background. But can you elaborate on which part specifically spoke about filling next to?
Well, it was.
I thought they were talking about by the pool and by the backyard area.
Right. No, I'm talking about the stream area where the trees were cut and there was indications of stumps that were sticking out of the bank.
Well, that's what I wrote. That's my summary. Is that what you're saying?
That was also evident in the some Fran Fink wrote back in.
I think that's in the Fran Fink one as well. I got confused between Fran's and yours, frankly, when I started looking at it because they look so similar.
I thought Fran was referring to the back area.
No,
The back.
It seemed like that yours was a continuation of the one that Fran wrote with similar conditions.
Dave, if
Yeah. Go for it. Help me.
Hi, it's Anika. Just
sorry,
to jump
okay.
in, because I think this is how long I've been on conservation. I think I was around for this original enforcement order. And what I recall is it was behind the house. It was alteration or filling or some disturbance behind the house. Honestly, I mean, I do need to go through and read what Chuck sent us a couple more times. And as you read the enforcement order attachment from Fran, you can notice how incredibly thoroughly detailed she was in describing things. But without a figure, it's really hard to understand exactly what these areas are. I totally agree. But my memory serves that it was the area behind the back of the house. So now we're talking about the area in front of the house to the left of the driveway. Chuck, if you would let me, I'll share a photo from the road, kind of looking 180 degrees from this, if that's okay.
Go ahead. You have permissions.
Oh,
and while you're doing that, if I could just add, I just looked on Google Maps, and in 2013, there's still a tree there that hadn't been cut. And in 2019, there's like a dumpster right on the bank.
Like staged?
Yeah, there's a dumpster right where the man is standing in the green sock. There's a dumpster right there. Like if you just look in Google Maps and go back in time.
Yeah, I think I saw the dumpster one today when I was looking at this.
In 2013, it looks like there's a tree, and then in 2006, there's still a tree, but here the tree's gone, and it's a tree that was next to there's one tree next to the man standing there, and then there was another tree too. It appeared to me. I just wanted to add that.
I'm sorry, Chuck, I can't figure out how to share the picture I have.
Anika, do you have the option to share screen at the bottom?
Maybe Chuck needs to stop sharing his picture.
Maybe.
No, you can do a new share. That's not. Do you want to send it to Mike or myself, and we'll put it up?
Sure. Through email?
Yep.
Send it to Mike.
That'd work out best.
Yeah, I can get it.
Okay.
So I just have a question about that green erosion control at the top of the stream. It looked like there may be some work going on the end of the house. Is that some construction that's going on there?
That's some new siding.
And was the erosion control put down because of putting the new siding on?
I just put that erosion control down last week after I talked to Chuck, or maybe that was this week, Monday, last Saturday, sorry.
I emailed it. Hopefully you'll get it soon. To me, basically what it looked like was, it just looked like the bank was filled in. I want to get a really good understanding of where the natural bank really was before this, because what it looks like is the whole stream was just filled in.
I got it here.
It seems to me like there needs to be some bank stabilization on the opposite side because it's getting undercut so much.
Yes. I think honestly, all that new fill needs to come out. It's true, there is good erosion on the page left side of this picture. There's exposed roots. And constricting the stream is only going to add to that erosion.
So the fill below the silt sock in this picture, right? It looks like it hasn't been there for that long. I mean, there's some leaves and things in it, but do we know what that is from? Or am I missing something? Sorry.
That's what Mr. Rivers is here for. If he could speak to the age of that fill, how did all that get, like that concrete slab, how did that all get filled in?
You can see almost an old granite curb here. It looks like this is all placed.
And
I mean, I thought the wall had fallen, honestly.
Right,
Like
and that's like 18 inches of earth right there, 2 feet. It looks like it's from the silt sock to the granite curb looks like 18 inches of grade change. That's a lot of earth. So I'm sorry. So if I interrupted the homeowner, sorry.
No problem. The where that green mulch sock is, to the left of that is I'm assuming it's probably 40-plus-year-old railroad tie retaining wall. That obviously all that, it's kind of tipping over, kind of lines up with the fence a little bit in the back. Everything is all from there, except for there's some, you can see that sandy material right there. I put in a new door on the house, and there was some, that's what the asphalt was. There's a chunk of asphalt and some sandy gravel that was up at the top of this. Some might have gotten kicked down, but everything else is all existing. Everything inside of that, from the brook, mulch sock to the brook, has all been there, although it's been walked over and going up and down out of that thing for years, and cutting down trees in there to get out that had fallen down. There is some loam compost to the right of that, which I have covered with some polyethylene sheeting. That's new. There's a little bit of that. Looks like it's going down into that area a little bit on the other side of the mulch sock. But aside from, going up and down to retrieve my barrels and pull out trash and cut trees that had fallen down, all that stuff is existing, been there, and is still there. Further in the background, right on the water's edge, there's a big boulder, probably like half the size of a Volkswagen, I guess. Obviously, it's existing, and it's right on the water. And then halfway down, there's a stump on the right side that was the old, I think it was a red maple that had like 4 big trunks, probably 12, 14 inches coming out of it, which it might be the picture you saw. I can't remember when that came down. It was over several years and a lot of trees that came down. So I think some of it had to do with the ash trees kind of all dying. But and then there was like an old cedar saplings, got a little bigger than saplings, that got ripped out when one of the trees was the last time the DPW was here.
Just out of curiosity, is the fence new as well?
It's replaced.
It's replaced.
Yeah, that used to be. There used to be a cedar stockade that had all rotted out too.
I don't know if you guys saw. I mean, was there? What's underneath the fence? Is this the continuation of the railroad ties, or? I mean, this just looks like new fill to me as well. And granted, I'm doing this from 100 feet away in a photo. I don't know if anybody had a chance to get back there as well.
It looks like a new fence to me.
I wasn't sure if has there been any grading back here, Mr. Rivers?
No grading at all back there. The last time any grading back there was, and again, this is what the Fran Fink thing was, about another 200 feet further back. That's where it started. Yeah, I was putting in like an ice rink on the backyard for the kids, and that's the area in question. It was all at the back end of that property. Yeah, probably another 200 feet from there, further back, downstream.
All right. So it seems like I agree with, I think, Anika, you said this earlier. I'd like to try to have some understanding of what this bank had originally looked like. I mean, I look at this and I see this appears to be fill to me. That this bank is just, we've totally changed the way that the bank and the stream is moving from this area. And so I'd like to have an idea of what that is and what that needs to be restored to. I guess, I think the first thing that we want to do is issue the enforcement order. I guess from there, let's talk about steps forward and what, again, I said earlier, what seems right from the standpoint of, I think ultimately, Chuck, to your point, we have the greatest amount of enforcement and carry here, but I do want to make sure we're involving the other parties. If that means having a site visit with Mr. Rivers, the DPW, again, are there short-term things that need to happen or solutions? Is that something that we want to talk about now? But at the end of the day, we need some sort of plan on what we need to, where we go from here.
So Mike,
the
plan doesn't come from us. So
agreed.
Yeah. So the direction that you give Mr. Rivers would simply be, there's something going on here. We don't know exactly what it is. Needs to be figured out. He's got to get some professionals involved, and and then come back to us with an assessment of the site, and then at that point, move forward. I mean, to me, it looked like all the stone, starting at that granite curbing at the bottom of the picture, was placed in
Can you see
there.
my mouse?
Yep, you see it.
Okay.
So, and then the dirt or the fill on top of it is filled with like different types of construction debris, some white stone and whatnot, and just the way they're just like, it looks like a dump truck dumped it because it's kind of how it's piled. Now we have this armor bank, right there, probably where the stream bank was. And it's pushed the water underneath the bank on the other side. That's too eroded for a homeowner to fix themselves. And, we can't speculate on how to make that repair. So that's why, I suggest that you give a time limit for someone to, Mr. Rivers, to get some counsel from somebody and come back to the Conservation Commission with, from what I think the DPW department is going to take our lead. I will make sure that Jane Kinsella knows about this, ask her if she wants to, how involved she wants to be, or if she's comfortable with us, taking the lead. But, if the bank falls in and the stream still flows straight through it and takes all that sediment downstream, DPW is fine with it. They're only going to be concerned when it's really backed up, when it's actually backed up and stopped and it can't go any further. So I don't see, from my 2 trips out there, I don't see that happening. I think the bank on either side is deep enough to, take on some backup and then overtop it and then erode whatever fell in. So, I don't know how you want to put that. I just think that's the steps forward. How does it work? I don't know. Obviously you just get filled in with something. We've used certain types of materials, and we're not going to design this. We're just going to say, hey, there's an issue. Conservation Commission needs to have it resolved. And put a time limit on it. And part of that time limit and part of this enforcement order is starting that process where you can get to a point where you've exhausted all the possibilities, and then you could say, hey, look, we're going to just start fining you at this point. And there's a process to go with this. Now, I've reached out to the enforcement person at DEP, and she was happy enough to advise me about some of the particular language that should be in the order, should be in the enforcement order. So with anything else you're going to add tonight, I will add that. I'll go over it with DEP, and then we'll send it off. And again, for Mr. Rivers, it's more or less what we see here is some filling, and I think Alex told you when out there, everything to the right or to the left of that erosion control looks like it was dumped in there. And to say that it's not filled, it's not altering the stream is, I don't see it. But I'm willing to hear if you had some pictures. I'm willing to see, the pictures or how that worked. But to me, with the erosion on the other side, this just happened. This is pretty recent work.
Chuck, I think that's a good summary of the expectations, and frankly, also what you just ended with, what I see. Okay. So you want to bring up the enforcement order? I took a look at the enforcement order. I think it kind of summarizes what we have here. Like I said, my big concern is timing. I don't want this. I want to make sure we have a clear date that I think realistically, what I'm feel like is, you know, the next meeting too quick, but is the meeting, you know, if you think, go ahead.
I disagree. I think you could hire someone and have him available for the next meeting. Nothing needs to be decided, an initial site visit, and then just know that someone's on board to kind of, you know, it's tough asking a homeowner the questions that the commission's going to come up with, because the answers aren't very technical, and you know, what we're looking for is hard to kind of pull out of someone. And I think if we just had a professional that could kind of be, you know, look at the site, and then we could try to understand what possibly could happen. I mean, a lot of times what ends up happening is, you know, this is what we have, getting it back to the original state isn't possible, but this could work. And then they present that plan.
I like that. Okay, that makes sense to me, Chuck. Okay.
Hey, can I just say a couple of things for the record?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Rivers.
So just so the bottom of that pipe, the culvert that goes under the street, is about 8 feet down below the surface of the street to the bottom of the pipe, straight down. So it's not, this isn't shallow where the grade on each side of that, up at that point is about 8 feet. Just so you can understand it's hard to visualize from some pictures, but second of all, I did meet with Fran out there. This was one of my first, when I first bought the house, that I was concerned about was safety, the safety of the basically straight fall down 8 feet, and then the trees that, you know, because the brook only runs for a couple of months of the year. Right now until probably like March, April, maybe. Every year's a little different. And then it had all insects and piles of sawdust at the bottom of these trees, the ones that were growing out of the brook. So I knew that I was going to have an issue because there's so much insect damage with the wet and then dry. Now I had a situation where everything's disturbed down there. And most of the trees that I had worried about had fallen with all kinds of physical damage to the house and my property. And I had to climb in and out of this godforsaken place the other week. This is not a malice the way it's coming across to me, the way I'm hearing it. This is something I tried to address ahead of time, and with Francine, I got absolutely nowhere. And all the damage that I had foreseen had happened. So it, you know, rubs me just a little bit the wrong way when I did my best, you know, to look ahead for this.
Well, you know, what I'll just say, Mr. Rivers, is look, I get you have concerns, particularly when there's a large drop, but any sort of work that goes near a stream like this or protected zone needs to be done properly in accordance with the permits. And a lot of times that requires a professional to come up with a plan that can suit your needs, but also suits the regulatory requirements that are necessary to protect this waterway. And I look at this right now and I just say, like, this has been just severely disturbed, and you know, this needs a professional touch of how do we resolve this.
I agree.
Yeah,
this
so
isn't something that this isn't something I only disturbed out of necessity as things were falling into it and getting my trash barrels out of the brook. That's the necessity.
I think that, you know, Fran isn't here anymore, and, you know, some of the dates on the enforcement orders and the violation notices was 2006. So I'm sure since 2006, you understood the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission and the enforcement issues that could happen. it's, you know, it's unfortunate that you felt like you had to go on your own because it's put us in this predicament. And our thought is that it needs to be resolved. And, you know, hopefully you're in that same spot also. Now, if you can work in to this plan with this guy or this person that you hire somehow to fix these other things that you're concerned about, like add a retaining wall finally and have that approved by the commission, because you're going to be out there doing work anyways, then that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, instead of doing it on your own to get it done properly, I mean, that problem's solved. And, you know, so maybe this is a time just to, you know, get somebody and then just tell them all the needs. But this is a result of what I did, meaning you, when I tried to do it by myself. So we need to fix this, but I also have some needs outside of this work. I think that would probably work, because no one's saying you don't have a problem there. It's just the way you went about it and the environmental issues that are left there. I mean, that bank drops and all that dirt falls into the stream. I mean, it couldn't be anything worse as a conservation administrator for that to happen. And, you know, for you to be doing that work and for me to be at my office and you to feel like you couldn't contact us because of some situation you had with Fran Fink, you know, I feel bad about. I've been here since 2011, and I haven't heard anything about this. So that's really what I have to say. But I'm hoping that whoever you worked with in 2006 with the backyard is available and you like that person, and you can call them back and we can move forward and we can get some more talk time at our next meeting in February 10th and see how to move forward and what are the additional asks that you have for the commission. The commission can keep this in an enforcement action or ask you to file a notice of intent. They both have a, you know, for the commission, there's different options and why we would use either. But a notice of intent is obviously a little bit more expensive, and enforcement gives you less rights. So it's, I think the ask right now is to find some professional help and come back on the 10th. So are you accepting that decision?
Yeah, I think we both want the exact same thing. I want what's best, you know, environmentally, and I don't want to be climbing in and out of that brook anymore.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
And I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to have to enforce it's like, let's just get this how you want it and how the commission wants it and be done with it. So
Yeah, that sounds.
All right.
Just ask one more question. If you're suggesting a professional person to be hired, is there a title or a way one would look that professional person up on the internet that you're recommending he look for?
There might be someone they know. I'm not sure.
Actually, I did my own work with Fran, all the drawings and everything. I didn't hire anybody. You know, it's kind of expensive.
Well, this has gone too far for that. You're going to have to hire someone if the commission asks you. You're going to need, even if you did the drawings, the advice is what you need. Okay, you can draw. Right. If you're good at drawing, then that's fine. But it's that professional advice, how to handle that undercut bank, and just to determine what's the best route to kind of correct the stream. That's, you know.
So that's the question I'm asking is, what's the title of that professional? What are they certified in that you're recommending he look for?
I just think he would need to go to either a firm or I don't see why a wetland scientist couldn't cover most of what's out there and then ask, there might be, and then bring in an engineer for from some of it. We have a lot of experience here. Anyone else chime in? I would say a bigger company would be quite easy just to go to that, and then they would have whoever they end up needing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chuck.
Mike, do you know who you worked with in 2006? Or you just said it was just you and Fran? Yeah.
Me and Fran, and I hired a botanist from Hayes Engineering to do a survey, but
I wouldn't.
Kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I would not. So I'm not going to ask you to do anything that's not absolutely needed. So we don't need anyone to delineate the wetland line, okay? And that's probably what you had Hayes do. So, but Hayes doesn't usually. Yeah, Hayes is a big firm. That might be a little bit bigger than what you need. If you want to give me a call or I think if you just looked up, wetland, land management, terms like that, you would find what you need.
Chuck, I'm sorry to cut you off, Chuck. I think it also depends, Mr. Rivers, on what you're looking for in the end. If you're looking for, there's a couple different ways to proceed. I think what we would be, I'm just throwing this out there that, we haven't voted, we haven't discussed it, we haven't decided, but I would assume we would want some type of restoration, the fill removed and some type of restoration. If you want to take that opportunity to do additional work in that bank area to make your life next to your driveway easier, well, that's something that a professional could help you prepare, set up in a way that we could approve it. So I just want to put that out there, that I know, believe me, I know nobody budgets for this type of work, right? And I am sorry about that. But at the same time, if you get the right people, and you have a good working relationship with them, you might get kind of the best of both worlds, something that we can approve and also something that, makes your life better.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you can also look to your engineers or land surveyors. They sometimes know and work with other professionals that have the wetland, wetland ability. Again, you can give me a call in the office. That's or email me, and I'll do my best to help you.
But I will just comment that restoring a bank is not as simple as just planting a couple trees, digging it up and planting a couple trees. It's a little more technically involved, which is why Chuck said what he said about needing a professional in this situation.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know. It's an 8 foot undisplaced fill would never meet code. So I think the only way to restore that would be probably to extend that culvert, put a manhole and a couple pieces of culvert, so that I'm back to a point where I'm only maybe 6 feet or 4 feet.
The violation here, though, is placement of fill in a resource area. So that's the violation, and that's what has to be remedied. You can't continue to fill and just put a culvert under it. There's no provision in the Wetlands Protection Act for us to approve that. So that can't be done, if that's what you're saying.
I'm just trying to think of a way to you're talking about retaining walls to hold up that bank, and I'm trying to think of
Or
what that would be.
or a well-vegetated slope. There's some really robust, well-vegetated slopes that can stand up. You know, like I said, you talk to a professional, and
Yeah.
hopefully a creative engineer who knows their stuff, and you should get some, ask for more than one design, you know, like just
Mhm.
options, like, you know, talk to somebody.
Yep.
And Chuck's a great resource too.
Yeah.
You can ask him, hey, this guy's telling me this, like, is that legit, or am I getting scammed, or is he giving me the $1 million version, or is he, you know, or is this the bare minimum of what I have to do?
Yeah.
Mike, you have some language for the enforcement order?
Well, I think, let me go back to what you had sent us now. Make sure I'm reading the right one.
So there's a
I mean,
section just below the summary that says something like, what are we asking? That's some summarizing, but let me pull it up.
I think at this point, what I'm hearing we're asking is that Mr. Rivers hires a professional, returns to our meeting on February 10th, you know, has someone hired and has a site visit ahead of that meeting so that they can come with ideas, even if there's not a full plan yet, and meet with the commission, correct?
And so just
a plan to
yeah,
a plan to restore the bank.
So when we, Mike, when you talk about the throwing in a culvert, you know, we're not kind of like moving forward from where you're at. That's not how the commission works. The commission is going to want to restore what was there originally. And when I said a retaining wall, it has to, well, in my mind at this point, and obviously there's going to be an opportunity for you and your consultant to talk to us. In my mind, it's at least where the bank was before. So that discovery process about how much this thing's moved over has to be part of that discussion at our next meeting, and how much can we pull it back? Because it can't continually erode the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, we have this fill put in, and it's caused multiple erosion concerns. So Chuck, if you could circle back to your question.
About what do you want on the order? What do you want on the enforcement order? So
Yeah.
hires a consultant and has a plan
To restore
the
bank.
Restore and discuss with the commission, I guess. Establish the original stream channel. And if you have any pictures of what this looked like before this happened, that would be great. If not, I mean, you know, Google Earth will help a little bit, and the engineering department probably has plans of the stream. So.
Chuck, for the time being, if we get a big storm and there's a surge down the stream, is there some sort of in-stream siltation control we can do until this gets to a point that the restoration can happen? I think we did that on Oak Street, if you remember. the water main job?
I remember, I'm just
going to the
I'm
discharge?
thinking about where, so that, yeah, I don't see that as the same,
No,
because,
I'm just thinking, do we want to, it's just a discussion here, and I'd love other people's opinion, but do we want to put it in the enforcement order that something has to be put in the stream channel itself in the event of a storm? You're thinking no, Chuck?
I'm thinking that, in my opinion, that is so hard to do correctly that
Okay.
when you're or a consultant, unless they've done it before, it's going to have a hard time. Unless he hires Mickey Marcus. I mean, you know, this is the guy that does this, you know, core logs all over.
Core logs. Anika, my suggestion would be, at this point, let's save that question for our next meeting. If there's any recommendation from the professional of like, is there something that can be done appropriately?
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
I understand your concern, but I get Chuck's point. I have concerns about trying to do something in there and getting it right.
I mean, by all
I'm
means,
just
I'd love
thinking
to have somebody come in tomorrow and fix it, but I'm not, the logistics of that happening is really tough. It's, you know.
yeah, I'm just thinking something to stop any sediment transport that happens between right now and a remedy. But I
Well,
hear
from the
you.
picture, you can see that it's just, everything is just heading to
It's already
the
doing it.
north side, and a big storm is going to flush out more, and the bank may, you know, it's, you know, all these, you know, the thing here, Mike, for you to understand the urgency of what's going on is that you do not want DEP to get involved. I mean, they start finding at a very high level. So we're going to need, you know, your help, and we're going to need you to be, you know, to keep up with the time frame that the Conservation Commission has, because I think you have a ticking time bomb out there. And if that bank falls in, it's, you know, I'm just going to throw my hands up. I'm going to give DEP a call and say, look, we asked for something, didn't come up, and this is what happened. And see what they said. So, you know, and part of why I'm saying this is because you've been in front of the commission a couple of times with enforcement orders. So I don't consider you a novice about this. I mean, I want to work with you. I just want to make sure that you want to work with us, and we're not just not doing anything and just dragging our feet. There's some big issues out there that could really end up being a problem.
I hear you, and I do want to work with you, and I do know I have a ticking time bomb. I knew it since I bought this place, so I've had one enforcement. I've dealt once, so just to clarify. But when I say we want the same thing, seriously, we want the same thing, and I'll use all my means to, make it happen as fast as I can. So
yeah. All right, well, that's all we can ask for. I'll issue the enforcement order after it's reviewed, and it'll just say what the commission said. Just come to our next meeting. Definitely have hired somebody. Definitely have that site visit. Come up with a plan so the commission can talk to you about time frame of getting this to happen. Or something like Anika just said, if it can't happen till a certain time, what stopgap measures can be used immediately to make sure that we don't have more of a problem in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Can I get a motion to issue the enforcement order? Assuming that's what I'm hearing.
I move that we issue an enforcement order.
Second.
Michael Flynn in favor.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
David Panett, favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keefe in favor.
We lose you, Carl. We might have.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. You can-
Thanks.
All right.
I like to be close.
So moving on, we'll go back to our old new business. So I'm going to keep conservation goals 2021. I'll come fully admit my last 2 weeks have been a mess. I have not thought about this at all, and I want to make sure we're coming at this prepared. This is going to stay on our agenda. I think this is at the very least, keeping it on there is a good reminder for me that this needs to be something that we address. Anika, you did send something to us before the meeting. I'm actually going to address that in the next item because I think it actually fits there. And actually, what I'll do is just kind of give a quick recap. So the next item is the Conservation DPW monthly meeting. We had a meeting, when was that, Chuck? Last Tuesday?
It was Tuesday because last Monday was a holiday.
With the DPW, it was myself, Carl, Chuck from the commission, and then Chris Cole, Jane Kinsella, Mike Hannaford. I forget who the one other gentleman was. Chuck, do you remember who that was?
No.
Another gentleman from the DPW, and then Julie Mincier from planning. We went over, the primary thing that we went over was the tree policy. I think we spent about 90%, 95% of the time going back over the tree policy. Chris Cole had sent us a document similar to what Anika, what you were trying to achieve. I'll say similar from the standpoint of similar in intent of, you know, when a tree item comes up underneath the policy, to have some sort of form that clearly identifies what the work would be, and really, so it was a working document because we got about 5 minutes before the meeting, and we spent most of the time kind of walking through what it was and making sure that it fits with the tree policy. So what we ended up with, I don't know if it came this way, but what we ended up with is try to have a goal for a form that is filled out by the DPW when an item like this comes up that says, you know, what happened, what's the proposed actions, and you know, I think at this point, you know, the goal would be that we append some sort of, yes, this is our suggestion or our decision to move forward. I think this is right in line, Anika, with what you had sent and what we've been trying to have. I think Chris sent us a draft form based on the end of our conversation. I'll send that around to the commission so you guys can see what it looks like. But my goal is to make some revisions, edits that we can get in there and send it back to the DPW of, you know, this is a form that will work between us so that we're all on the same page and that there's an easy line of communication when an item that fits under the tree policy happens. Chuck or Carl, do you guys have anything to add there? Did I miss something?
I think you missed that the form is only supposed to reflect the sign off that's needed for the tree policy number 2 and was it 5 or 4?
5.
2 and 5. So when you look at the form that Mike sends, and if you don't have the tree policy, we'll send you the tree policy 2. It's only supposed to
around.
Number 2 and number 5 ask for certain things to be done, and this form is supposed to just like a fast track to that. And I had issues because everything wasn't spelled out, and there wasn't like a date on it and things like that. So I kept on asking, well, how come we don't have a date? How come it doesn't say this is only for 2 and 5? How come, you know? So you know, the devil's in the detail. And I kept explaining it to them. Mike may know everything about a tree and what's happening on site, and so may I. But if I just send that to the commission, are you guys going to understand what's going on out there? And one of the places where we always get tripped up is, what's the action? How's that described? And how is that tree left? Is there something left? Is it a stump? You know, a stump to me means a foot or less, but what does it mean to the DPW department? So these are the things that we're getting tripped up by. And it would be better to kind of like make sure we understand what's going on with this policy and with this guidance document. So that's the only thing I would add. And I saw problems with it. I saw, you know, one-line answers on most of that stuff, which I don't think would have fly. So.
Yeah, you know, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be a work in progress of what we get. I think having this will at least hopefully set us up for success. You know, I think we came a long way. I think we spent the first 10 minutes talking about, there was wording of calling this an order of conditions, or I think it was like order of, people were getting hung up on wanting this to be called an order of conditions. This is specific to the tree policy. So when you guys are looking at it, I want that what Chuck said exactly kind of kept in mind, that this is meant as a form to expedite dealing with those two items on the tree policy. So, all right. Chuck,
other than that, the meeting lasted way too long. It should be an hour or less. And feel free to say, I got to get out of here the next time. I mean, I don't think it should go longer.
So I just want to ask, Chuck, are you getting periodic updates of where? One thing I was kind of hoping was going to happen was there's going to be an opportunity for DPW to discuss with you, hey, we're working over here next week. Do we need to work together on this? Like, do we need, so have you guys gotten to that point yet, or no? It's just basically all talking about what are we going to do about this tree policy?
Oh, it's only the first meeting, and that's really the,
okay.
You know, that's, I mean, I don't know how best to describe it, but
That's
of
all you have
course,
to
that's
say.
what the first meeting is going to be about. But I would like it to be exactly what you're talking about. Mike and I talked and before the meeting, and he said that let's get a list of all these projects, and then we can ask them for updates on each one of those. And that's what we expect to happen. I mean, but of course, the first one was all about signing off and this and that. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of trepidation with, I feel like there is with the DPW department, and you know how we're going to react to what they're doing. And of course, you know, talking to people above my head, I think that the DPW is an organization that does a lot of work, much more work than that size organization in another town. And the way they do that is to expedite the work and to get to it and not be delayed. And I think they're in that zone. And when we introduce conservation into this, yeah, it's like they're rejecting. Well, I don't mean they're actually rejecting, but it doesn't fit with how they do things. So we're trying. It's frustrating, but it's moving forward. And you know, I've had some positive conversations with Mike and with Jane, and you know, I decided that I just need to call Jane most of the time and ask her about bigger things, and Mike on the tree stuff. So that's where
I second that. I think it'll be a good day when we can move on.
Well, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like Anika, I think ultimately, our goal will be to get those meetings to be, you know, like Chuck had said, we had gotten together and kind of said 5 or 6 things of what's going on with these projects, or what's going on with this here. We know this is going to come through. Is there any update or timeline, or you need us for anything. So I think ultimately that's going to be the goal for where we get those.
I can't get that other guy's name. It's not in my head, but I remember he was on the crew that worked with me, and actually it was Mike. Wasn't it you, Mike, that you and me went out and we did we expanded the parking lot for the Matera cabin? Did you review that one? So he was on that crew, and he's been with town for a long time, and he's the new George Trezeri. So he is, and he's like, yeah, we should talk and willing. So that worked. That was a benefit. That was helpful to know that, who this new person is and where he works inside the town. So I think that we have access to Mike, who takes care of some of the trees in some certain situations. And then this other person takes care of the trees in a different situation and takes care of drainage ditches and stormwater and other issues. So.
Jeff Cummings.
Okay, Jeff Cummings.
Chuck, I think, one pot, just something right away that we saw was, I think you had mentioned in the meeting of, we didn't realize that Mike didn't handle those trees and if it was drainage ditches or things. So I think just in itself is a sign that we're learning a little bit more about their process and who's the right people to talk to and when we're going to hear from those people. So I think Jeff is one that we should see have more engagement with, and he was, he was interested to have it. So, all right. So the next one of those meetings, the next meeting, I don't know if Chris sent it out actually, but would be, I think we're looking the second week in, actually, Chuck, is it actually coming up on next Tuesday? Do I have that right?
That's what I have.
Okay.
So in the second, this is a busy day. I can't believe so we have a lot on the first, and then we have a lot on the second. We have the open space plan, public meeting on the first, and then we have the town select board meeting on the second. Where they're going to be talking about a lot of conservation stuff.
Considering the select board meeting, Chuck, I'll reach out to Chris and just see if we can push that 2 weeks again. So we pushed the last one 2 weeks because it just wasn't lining up with schedules. So the intent is to have them about once a month apart. Considering everything that we've got next week, I'll see if we can just push that.
Yeah, they're at that meeting too, so they might agree.
Okay. So, and any of the other items on the old new business?
Oh, you asked me. No, those certificates of compliance are still out there. So as soon as spring comes, they'll probably be finishing off. I had some notes, but yeah, just continue. I don't know what's next. The minutes.
Yeah. So minutes for approval. We got minutes for December.
12/9.
12/9. Did everybody have a chance to look at them? Have any edits, issues? We don't have 113.
Thank you for the reminder. I thought so
I read them, and that's why I sent out that form, because it said at the end of the minutes, what did it say? It said that Mike and Chuck would review the form and send it out.
Well, there you go.
So I decided to just send it.
Thank you, Anika.
Pretty busy. Just joking with
I
you
read
guys.
the minutes and they were fine as far as I can remember.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes from 12/9.
Second?
All right, Michael Flynn in favor.
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Net in favor.
John,
It's
John
me.
Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor.
and Carl.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right. Chuck, any other items on the agenda?
Always ask me if there are any bills. Tonight you didn't, but tonight there is a bill. Could I get a motion to approve MACC's dues in the amount of $777 for, us to be part of the Massachusetts Association of Conservation.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave. Second?
Second.
Michael Flynn in favor.
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
David Tenet in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right. And
So,
I think
just let me add
last-
one more thing. Being a part of that organization allows everybody on the commission to call up and ask questions on their hotline and supposed to be able to get an answer back from a professional. So like, an environmental lawyer or whoever. Anyways, just so you know. So please use it. $777 is a lot.
Are they virtual?
Yeah.
at this point?
What's that?
Are they virtual? In other words, you have to call in and.
No, they're small. There's only like 3 people in the office, so they're probably still going to the office. But leave a message or email them. They love the email.
Okay.
And obviously, what most commissions do is they get a filing in front of them, and they say, "Well, let me ask some questions because it doesn't sound right to me," and they call them up and talk it over with somebody. So. All right.
And then just ahead of next meeting, so February 8th, we've got I think we talked about it last meeting, but the select board meeting on the 2nd, there's a lot of items on the agenda that are associated with conservation. That includes Millet, open space and rec, and the tree policy. Chuck, you and you reached out to me earlier this week, but are you presenting on the open space and rec? Is that what, I can't remember what you told.
There's more
No.
too. It's the Birch Meadow is being
So there's
presented there too.
Birch Meadow master plan. There might be some
Birch Meadow.
questions from the select board considering what we went through. I see that there's a meeting at like 1:30 on Tuesday, day of the meeting. I'll see if Martha, I'll send you that information so you can join. I think it's just to make sure everything's ready. Millet is a request from the Conservation Commission to transfer the land that's held by Scott for tax title, I guess. But it was deeded over to the select board for conservation purposes. So for many years, past chairs of the Conservation Commission have asked for this to finally happen, for that transfer to happen. So we're asking again for that final parcel. There's actually 2 parcels, but that other half on this side of the Abidjona River to be deeded and given to the Conservation Commission. A couple of years ago, the select board, let us maintain our stewardship of that area and to be in care and custody of that, but it still falls to them to sign on notice of intent. And if some work were to happen out there, they would have a say, and this would eliminate that. It would be up to us. And that's really how that land has been used, brought forward with projects. It's been up to the Conservation Commission, and most of the select board has not had a problem with it. So we're just trying to complete that process. I think that started in 1986.
Has that gone through town council yet, Chuck?
So we're asking, so the town council has reviewed the warrant. And so I put a draft out there of the warrant, and so they know about it. And yeah, I guess the only information we got from town council, because we already knew it needed to be from a vote from town meeting, is that you know, certain things on the warrant, from what my recollection is.
Okay, yeah, because it just seems to me to be something that if it hasn't gone before town council, it'll come before the select board, and they say, well, we're gonna have to run it past town council, and it's gonna be a cat chasing its tail.
No, yeah, we've been working on this. This was supposed to be at several other town meetings, and it's been put off. So it's been hovering around and been talked about. But that's been covered. That base has been covered.
Okay.
The tree policy is another thing that's going to be talked about, and you know, just be honest and I think that it's. And I told Bob LaLashore that it says the DPW tree policy. I said, no, it's the DPW and the conservation tree policy. We both worked really hard on that. And, they don't own it, and changes can't happen without the conservation.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I
Second,
hear a second? All right, raise your hand if you're in favor.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Mike and
Have a good
Nika,
night.
can you hang out
Yep.
for a second?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mike and Nika.
Hey, is anybody else going to the open space on Monday?
Yeah, public meeting, open space plan.
Oh, that was, maybe that's what I was thinking of with open space.
Well, Birch Meadows is it sometime on Monday too? I don't know.
So Monday's the open space master plan.
Yeah.
Tuesday is everything else. Oh, it's the open space master plan and Birch Meadow and the tree policy.
If you miss the Monday night open space plan, our consultant is coming to update the select board on Tuesday, which is a day that I would prefer everybody spend they get one night to choose from, come to the select board meeting.
Tuesday.
That would be the best.
And it's probably too late for this, but I bet you already posted it as a meeting for us, right?
No, it's not too late, but I will post it.
Yeah.
and I just have a quick question. How did Tay get her name changed?